Hi, and welcome back to Miracles, Marvels, Memories, and Me. And notice, if you will, I said welcome back. The reason I say that is I did these last two chapters 5 days ago on Christmas Day, but I couldn't find them anywhere. The devil hates these last two chapters so much. Remember back a few chapters when I told you I went to print this book out and my machine ran out of ink at that very moment? Well, he did that to slow me down. Well, he can try to slow me down all he wants, but he hates us so much. I don't care what he wants. I'm going to do this till God calls me home. Well, anyway, here we go with Windows of Wonder. And he sincerely hates this chapter. Isn't that good? I hate it when he hates stuff. Windows of Wonder. Come over for dinner tonight, Don, my business partner offered one day in 1996. Sure, I'd love to, Dick, I replied. What are we having? Oh, nothing real fancy, just burgers and fries, the usual fare. If you're a good boy, though, I might throw in an onion or maybe a tomato, he says. Oh, and by the way, I'd like to, after we're done eating, I want to take you somewhere. Really? I simply asked him. Where? Take me where? I can't tell you. It's a surprise, he said. Well, then I ain't going, I told him. Oh, come on, Don, he counters. You'll like where we're going, I promise you will. I see I've got him on the ropes here now, because he's pleading with me. Nope, I say again. I'm not going anywhere unless I know where it is I'm going first, striking him a wicked blow to his midsection directly. Oh, all right, you big baby, he says, somewhat exasperated too. I'll tell you where I want to take you. Boy, I thought he sure gives up easy. I could have gone a few more rounds before I would cave in like that. Okay, if you tell me, I'll go. Where do you want to take me? He looks at me and says, to church. He responded glumly, now that I've gone and messed with him. I want to take you to church. You do know I'm not a Catholic like you are, don't you, Dick? I'm a Baptist. Always have been, always will be. I said, not understanding why he wouldn't want to take me to his church. He retorts, it's to a Baptist church I want to take you, Don. Really? Really? Yes, really. Will you come? Sure, I was only pulling the chain a while ago. You should know that by now. I'd go anywhere with you if you ask. What time you want me to come for dinner? Early as you can. Around 5 o'clock will be okay. See you then. See you at 5, I said, cradling the phone and thinking to myself, boy, this is weird. A Catholic taking a Baptist to a Baptist church. I was raised to do it the other way around. I must be slipping in my old age. Great burgers, Mary, I said, complimenting Richard's wife for a delicious meal, as he got up and left the room to go someplace before our trip to this mysterious church he wants to take me to here tonight. Thank you both for the invitation and the meal. Tell me, though, I say, now that Dick is out of the earshot, what's this fellow of yours up to anyway, taking me to a Baptist church? You're going too, I suppose. No, she replied. I'm not going. Not tonight, I'm not anyway. I've been there the last 4 nights in a row, and I've had enough of that for a while. Let Richard tell you what this is all about. I wouldn't want to spoil his surprise. His surprise? What in the blue blazes was going on here? Is there a revival going on around here someplace I don't know about? Are the Catholics and the Baptists secretly teaming up against the Methodists and the Pentecostals? What? What could it be? I was soon to find out. Following Richard across town in my own car, we headed across the length and breadth of Knoxville, heading toward Fountain City, and even further yet. It made no sense for me to drive all the way back to his house after this mysterious trip was over to retrieve my car. Finally, we were in the parking lot of the church he was taking me to, and sure enough, like he said it was, the dimly lit sign in front read, Copper Ridge Baptist Church in Halls, Tennessee. Dick wasn't trying to proselytize me in his church after all, like he thought he was. But while I've got here on my own turf, well, I'm thinking to myself, Let's take a little walk around the church before we go in, okay, Don? He says. Says it very mysterious like too, in a very melodramatic way it is. Sure, why not? I'm with you, boss, I answered. Richard and I like to kid around a lot, calling each other boss, when in actuality neither one of us is a boss. We share everything equally in our little business we got going together, which in this case was none, actually. This is really interesting, Richard. This tour of yours, I said, after a short and somber tour of the many tombstones in the cemetery all around the church. But I've seen lots and lots of graveyards like this before, I have. So what's so special with this one? What happened? You found out, did you, that you had a few Baptists in your family? Anyway, as I told you, I'm a Baptist too. Funny, he laughed at my kibitzing. Well, he said as we stood there in the dark, I guess it's time to show you the real reason I brought you all the way out here tonight. Together we walked up the steps of the church where we were cordially greeted and kindly welcomed to by the pastor at the front door. The older gentleman appeared to be waiting for us, he did. Or was that my imagination acting up again? Anyway, that's what it looked like to me. Welcome, Mr. Goodpaster, he said, directing his full attention to me now, as Richard, smiling broadly from ear to ear, finished shaking his hand and continued walking into the sanctuary. Our mutual friend Richard here has told us all a lot about you, he said. I quickly glanced over to Richard, standing 20 or so feet ahead of me, inside the church, and I wondered to myself, why has he told this older gentleman in the undertaker-looking suit anything at all about me? The plot is thickening. I can feel it. Come in, please, and welcome. Enjoy yourself, said the pastor, very inviting and cordial-like, with his thick, heavy, cascading, deep southern drawl. Enjoy yourself, he says. Aha, now we're getting somewhere. It is a party of some sort after all, isn't it? It's got to be a party. But why here in a Baptist church I've never been to before and don't know a living soul here except for Richard? Anyway, I followed the pastor into the tiny, beautifully decorated foyer of the church. Richard was a few feet ahead of me and was looking back with a funny, enigmatic, cryptic look plastered across his face. Why is he looking at me that way, I wondered. Sign in before you go in, Mr. Goodpaster, the pastor said, pointing to a registry open on the table, carefully handing me a pen to sign with. I noticed there was a number next to where he wanted me to sign. It was a large number, somewhere in the vicinity of 89,970 something. This is weird, I thought. I've never had to sign to go in to a church before, but as they say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, I guess. I know it's not my birthday, and I haven't won any awards yet either. None that I know of anyway. I just know someone is going to jump out from somewhere and holler, surprise, at just any moment now. But then I heard this loud voice exclaim, oh my God! It was my voice I heard. My jaw dropped down to the second button on my shirt. Not really, but it seemed like it did anyway. There in the church window off to my right, and I mean in the window, was what appeared to be a 30-foot tall cross, a golden cross, along with a 20-foot silver companion of the same shape and design, overlapping the gold one. And in front of both these taller ones, down below off to the right, were 5 smaller teal-colored crosses, approximately 4 to 5 feet in height. But I didn't have a measuring stick, but they were a lot shorter than the big ones. Are those real? I turned and asked Dick, and asked anyone in particular within earshot. Well, Richard said, trying his best to explain what nobody else could. The way I understand it, Don, from Pastor Bullitt here, the 3 scientific teams from around the world seem to believe that they are, even if they can't begin to explain how or why they are. Then the pastor of this quaint little church jumped in and added his thoughts to what Richard was saying. The Pittsburgh Plate Glass Company, they signed an official affidavit that states that they don't put anything like this in their windows, and they never have, and they never will. It's not good for business. Why would they do that anyway? Well, the affidavit says that they wouldn't, and I believe it. Quickly I turned and saw that there were other crosses in each of the other 3 windows on the other side of the room as well. As a matter of fact, they were in all 5 of the windows. 3 on the left and 2 on the right. How wonderfully extraordinary. One thing I noticed immediately about the crosses, though, and remained as a constant throughout the entire room, was that they were either gold, silver, or teal. Nothing else. But then, who needed anything else, right? These enormous, brightly illuminated crosses were magnificent, they were. Never in my life have I seen anything as mystifying or wondrous as these crosses were. And then, suddenly I remembered something. A very important something. Something that happened back at my shop at Dollywood earlier that same day. A man came into my store early in the morning, just after opening time, pushing a stroller with a beautiful little blue-eyed baby sitting up so tall and pretty. When I saw her, I immediately came around my sales counter and knelt down and took both of her tiny little hands in mine. Now jump me here, all you PC people. I know it wasn't politically correct to do that, but I've always loved children. Somehow I felt or knew that this little one in front of me now was extra special to me for some reason. Please don't ask, because I don't know why, but she was. How old is she? Asked the mother standing nearby, close to the exit with a second little girl in tow. She'll be 14 months old in a few days, she answered unsmilingly. She's beautiful, I said to the parents, while kneeling down on one knee holding her hand in mine. She's perfect. The father then reached down and rested his hand lightly on my right shoulder. Pray for my child, he said, rather sadly, I thought. I looked up at him, but only briefly, looking into the father's heavy, sad-looking eyes, then returned my gaze back to the child, whose tiny hands were still clinging to, but only a little tighter now that I'm praying for her. I am praying, I said to him, but why am I praying? For what possible reason? She looks perfectly healthy and adorable to me. Her skin color is good. She looks so healthy. Her tiny lips, though, did appear to look rather a light shade of blue, I noticed. It's her heart. Her little heart is failing. She's already had 2 open heart surgeries, and the doctors in Johnson City don't give her much hope of living until January. This was November. All of a sudden I couldn't speak and my eyes welled over. I turned away from the parents so they wouldn't see me crying. I waved goodbye over my shoulder as they left the store to rejoin the park with all of its fun and games. Now I'm all alone with my thoughts of this poor, sweet little baby who is way too soon going to die. Oh, please, Lord, I cried out to the Lord right there in my store. Please be gracious and save this innocent child, I prayed. Please, I'm begging you, please do this for me, for her. Father, please. About 2 hours later, give or take, the child's mother returned to my store with a picture of the little girl and said to me, "Her name is Sissy K. And bless you and your tender heart," she said. Then she handed me the picture and turned and left my store without saying anything more, tears rolling down both of our faces now. Now, it's many hours later, but on the same day, here I am in this church 51 miles away from where that happened, in a church I didn't know I was going to until later that same afternoon. And I'm standing in a room surrounded by these miracle windows when I suddenly remember the picture I have in my left breast pocket, the picture of the little, soon-to-be-dead little girl, little blue-eyed angel. Listen, everyone, I say to everyone there in the room who are but complete and total strangers to me, just as I am to them. Gather around if you would, please, I said. Here we are in God's house, and I know He's still the great miracle worker He's always been. As you can see by just looking around, I was now pointing at each of the windows, at one at a time. In this picture I have in my hand is a baby who desperately needs our prayers to remain alive. Her little heart is not working properly anymore, it isn't. Please pray with me here tonight. right now that she will be all right. She's not even 14 months old yet. Pray with me, all of you. Pray for little Sissy K to be healed, to live." Quickly, everyone gathered around, and we joined hands in a large, ragged-looking circle, standing at the edges and in between each of the pews. Pastor Bullard, the senior pastor there at Copper Ridge Baptist Church, came out of the foyer where he was busy greeting newly arriving visitors, and he stood in the middle of all of us and prayed a beautiful, most elegant prayer, a prayer I'm sure touched everyone's heart, but especially it did mine. When his down-home country words of prayer, Pastor Joe touched me, with his down-home country words of prayer, Pastor Joe touched me to the quick that night, like no other prayer I had ever done before or since. Halfway through the prayer, I felt a deep, cold chill go through me all the way from my head to my toe. As far as I was concerned, it was now a done deal for sweet little Sissy K. She would live. Praise God. Several weeks later, I received a call from Sissy K's father telling me the good news. "The doctors up here in Johnson City don't know how it happened, Mr. Goodpaster," he said, beginning the conversation, "but there is no problem anymore with Sissy K's heart anymore. She just needs to be checked regularly. That's all. Don't we all? Don't we all, though? Spiritually, that is, I mean. Praise God for his wonderful healing powers." I went to that little church, Copper Ridge. 16 out of 18 days straight I did. I would get off work at Dollywood at 9 o'clock each evening. I went there at 9 in the morning, get off at 9 o'clock at night, and drive the 51 miles there, stopping only for gas, milk, and something to snack on during the long, tedious drive, fraught with bumper-to-bumper traffic to Pigeon Forge and Sevierville, all the way out to I-40. Then it was pretty smooth sailing from then on to that church. There I would take my time and visit each of the windows for a period of time to pray and to wonder. Sometimes I would have to lock up the church myself if I stayed there too late, which happened often in those 16 days. On one of those chilly evenings there at the church, I was sitting at the piano bench looking through photo albums and numerous stacks of loose pictures that people from all around the country had taken through the windows, pictures of the crosses, when Pastor Bullard approached me with a single piece of what looked like typing paper in his hand. "What do you see here, Don?" he asked, handing me the paper that had two separate photographs on it. "Well," I began, when he suddenly interrupts me. "See the doves, do you? See them right there?" he says, joyfully ecstatic, especially for him, who is usually more reserved than that. Never have I spoken to an elderly person in such a disrespecting way as that before in my entire life. All he did was ask me a question, and I jumped right down his throat. "Man, I really don't know what happened just then, or why." "Pastor," I blurted out rudely, "you ask me what I see, then you tell me what I see." Why, Don," he responded with a sweet tone of forgiveness ringing in his voice, "everybody sees the doves. See them there, and even a few more over here as well," he says, pointing at the two pictures, one on each sheet. I admit that there were some white characters of something on each of these two pictures. That was plain enough to see. But doves? I don't know about all that. "I guess I'm just not everybody then," I replied with even more of the same attitude as before, an attitude I couldn't seem to control. Then I said, but more calmly, I remember, "Explain to me then, Pastor, if you will, if you can, how you can find two birds flying with their wings in exactly the same position, let alone the 7 or the thousands I see down underneath. Explain that to me. Could you do that?" "I don't think you can." "Even without my glasses on, I can see those," I explained. "Can you see those?" I asked. "Soften your eyes, Pastor. Look deep down inside the picture. Look real deep, like you're looking through a mist or a fog or something. If you can explain to me all those, then maybe I'll believe you when you say that they're doves, like you and everybody else says they are. But until you can, I won't and I can't. Not until." "Not doves?" he asked quizzically. "Nope," I answered. "Not doves. I'm sorry." Pastor Joe had been told by the person who had taken the picture that they were doves. She told him that because that was what she thought or hoped they were. Inadvertently, she had now planted that seed in him, and then he misguidedly tipped over the water jug, proceeding to water her hopeful but false presumption, and was now trying to convince me that they were doves. But I wasn't buying it. I couldn't. Then what are they if they're not doves? He asked me straight out, as if I, simple old me, would have the foggiest clue as to what they are, which I assure you I didn't. I don't know. They look like little space shuttle Columbias to me. That's what they look like to me. And a whole bunch of them too, I said. Joe laughed heartily at my silly but honest reply. And praise God he wasn't offended by my blunt retorts directed at him. Honestly, I couldn't help myself. It was as if my spirit man was doing all the talking just then, not me. I never talk to elderly folks like that. Never. You can have this picture if you want it. He offered me the piece of paper with 2 pictures on it as I was about to leave and go back home to Pigeon Forge. Sure, I want it. Thank you. I want anything I can get from this church, I answered. I said goodnight shortly after that and began the long drive back home to Pigeon Forge with the gift of the photography resting on my lap. Under the glow of the street lights, I had it resting down there. I would stop and I'd hold it up and I'd look. Look at this picture. I was mesmerized by it. For the next 4 days at Dollywood Theme Park, there in action-packed Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, I would casually, quietly ask the people entering my shop. Tell me, I'd ask them, what do you see when you look at these 2 pictures on this one piece of paper? I would simply ask the question, never once prompting them to answer doves or anything else for that matter, like Pastor Bullard had done with me. I just asked them that one simple question and sat back and waited for their response. Oh, look at the beautiful doves, half would say. Or, oh my, look at the little angels, the other half would answer. Where'd you get this picture, mister? But these folks, the angel answering folks, would say it with much, much more enthusiasm coloring their extremely excited voices. But honestly, to me, they still look like little space shuttle Columbias. But then again, who am I? On the 4th day of having this fantastic picture in my possession, and about the 10th day of my going to visit the church each night, I was beginning to feel the effects of my nightly sojourns all the way out to Copper Ridge and back. And I had my right leg resting up on the counter, just below the cash register, just resting it there. As I'm prone to do, I rubbed my tired old eyes with my fingertips, and as I opened them, I looked down at the picture on the counter in front of me. What I saw was incredulous, as were my reactions. I pushed forward. I pushed forward with all the strength in my right leg. I pushed so hard, I propelled myself backward almost to the point of toppling over. I broke the seat of the stool I was sitting on, snapping the glue that held the seat together in the middle. Snapped it like a twig, I did. Well, I'm a big boy, and when I pushed back, it broke. Incredible is the only word I can think of or have in my extensive vocabulary to describe what I saw and was continuing to see. The faces of 2 men looking back at me from the pages, one on each picture. The faces, weren't moving or anything like that, but they did appear to be alive, looking at me, looking at them. I know this is hard to believe. Trust me, I do. It's hard for me to believe. But have an open mind. It would be hard for anyone, I know. The one on the right was about the size of a quarter. The one on the left about the size of a dime. I couldn't take my eyes off of them. I didn't want to take my eyes off of them. I stared at them for about a minute or 2 maybe, trying not to blink. Someone dressed in blue, walked down the hill in front of my shop there at Dollywood, stopped to look in. I had the impression that whoever it was watching me watching the paper, but I couldn't take a chance on looking up and finding out if they were or not. Why couldn't I? You may be asking, why couldn't I just stop looking at the picture for just a moment and look up? I couldn't because I remember the story in the Bible of the Apostle Peter traveling in the boat on the rough, roiling Sea of Galilee that stormy night. The night he looked out through the torrential rainstorm that had engulfed them, and saw the Lord Jesus out there walking on the water. The night he, Peter, asked Jesus if he could come out and be with him. And he did. He walked out to be with him. He walked on the Word, the holy Word of Jesus that night, and the water. As a matter of fact, a beautiful painting of that very scene is hanging in my den, right down the hall there behind me, painted by an exceptionally fine artist, an acquaintance of mine, Norbert McNulty, painted in 1993 and autographed especially to me, which I'm so blessed to have, and I'm very proud to have it on my wall. Jesus, Lord, Simon Peter asked, is that you? Yes, Peter, it is I, Jesus answered. Can I come out and be there with you, Jesus? Peter asked. Yes, you may, answered Jesus. Then Peter too walked on water, same as Jesus did. And the Bible says he walked a ways, meaning he took more than just a few steps on the top of the roiling, twisting roller coaster high wave sea. Peter walked, that is, until he felt the effects of the wind striking up against his face. The wind had become contrary, the Bible says, and he began to sink. In other words, Peter took his eyes off the Lord, as we all do from time to time. I myself am too often guilty of this. I'm so sorry to admit to you. I, as I said, knew this story all too well from the Bible, and I wasn't going to take my eyes off these two men looking up at me now. To me, and I don't know exactly how to explain this without you thinking I'm crazy, but both of these men looking up at me look like the same man, and they both look like Jesus. Somebody please come in and see what I'm seeing. Or have I gone completely crazy again? Then, with my peripheral vision, which is extremely good, by the way, I see that the person in blue is still standing in the same spot as before, still watching me. I couldn't tell whether it was a man or a woman, though, because I couldn't bring myself to look up to find out. So I hollered. I hollered loudly. Come in! I said, shouting over the park music, which is always playing for effect. Nothing. No movement. None whatsoever on their part. None. Well, I thought, someone's got to see this miracle besides me. Maybe if I look up quickly, then right back down again, the men will still be there on the paper. Wrong. Please come in, I said, but now in a little more rational sounding voice, looking up and begging the woman standing there, looking very disturbed and perplexed. I looked away from her as fast as I could now and back to the sheet of paper as she finally moved forward toward me. Rats, I thought, looking down at the paper. They were gone. Both of them were gone, vanished into thin air. But then, again, not totally, I noticed. Now it was as if they were hiding there in the picture. I could just barely make them out. You have to remember here that I watched them for over a minute. And because of that, I knew their exact location on each of the pictures. Now the lady in blue is inside my shop, standing right next to me, but on the opposite side of the counter. And now she's looking down at the photograph, same as me, but from a different angle. Ma'am, I said, pointing to the smaller of the two faces, the one on the left. Do you see a face looking back at you right there? I asked, pointing to the very faint face I can still see hiding there. No, she answered, looking at me now that she knows for sure I'm a nutcase and doesn't have to guess about it anymore. Right there, I said, pointing my finger. There, just above my fingernail. Do you see it now? I asked her again. No. She again shakes her head. Just about ready to bolt for the doorway she is and leave this madman's den. She had mistakenly allowed herself to voluntarily enter. Please, I continued to beg her, just look one more time. His head is about the size of a dime, I said. as I pulled out a dime from my pocket and gently placed it over the face I was looking at. He's there, under the dime. Watch carefully, just that spot when I slide it away. Slowly, I slid the dime away. The lady screamed. Not only did she scream, but she jumped back at the same time, landing in my fake ficus tree behind her. I had to run around the end of the counter to keep her from falling to the floor and possibly hurting herself. Aha, I thought, I'm not so crazy after all, because this lady sees him too. It's confirmed, at least to me it is anyway. How can this be? She asked, looking at me for the answer, which once again I assure you I didn't have. I was taken aback by all this too, just like she was. I don't know, I answered. Then I told her about the church windows at Copper Ridge Baptist Church I've been going to for so many days in a row now. But for now and for the next 45 minutes or so, I had a new partner with me in the Lord's Army, a newly formed team, and now we were both pulling in everybody we could from the street in front of my shop, both of us equally and excitedly showing off the faces we could both see easily now. She, the lady in blue, was just as confused about the men in the pictures when she left the shop as she was when she entered. But that's all right, because now I'm convinced she doesn't think I'm a crazy wacko anymore and try to have me forcefully removed if needs be from the park, and probably in one of those behind the back crisscrossing straitjackets, no less. Whew, that was close. That was real close. Now that I know that there is more to these pictures than just little spaceship Columbias drifting around from pillar to post, I began looking at it more diligently and with a different attitude. I turned it, the paper, in every direction and angle I could think of to turn it. And don't you know, I found several more marvels hidden there. Many, many, and much more I did. One of the things I found, other than the two faces I now had positive verification of, was a kind, soft-looking angel's face looking back at me. A face with what appeared to be a deep dimple next to her beautifully formed lips, angel lips. This angel has a small, adorable-looking round button nose, centered perfectly below round, almond-shaped eyes. Her cheeks and chin are visible too, once you get the mouth and nose properly oriented in your eyes. This face appears to be that of a child, at least to me it does. Please believe me now when I say I wouldn't be telling you this story at all had it not been for those two pictures on that one sheet of regular typing paper. Never in my life have I even ever remotely, considered writing something so far out, so fantastic sounding as this story probably sounds to you. Never, until I saw those two pictures. The lady who took the picture on the left side of the paper had it cropped, she did, leaving me no clues as to where she might have taken it. But I easily recognized the one on the right. Sadly, the church at Copper Ridge fell apart. There came upon that church great bickering and constant unrelenting turmoil that slowly steeped and brewed away among those simple church-going folks. Constantly for months, their tongues became unbridled and wagged hard at each other, and all over money, or in this case, or their case, the lack of money. Somehow the devil wedged his evil toe in there and ripped those fine folks apart, all the way up to suing one another. It was dreadful to witness, and totally uncalled for. He may have won that battle, but he will never, ever win the war, I know, for I've read the back of the book, and as they say, we win. Now let me show you some of what I've been witnessing to you about. But the two men on that one piece of typing paper aren't with me anymore, they aren't, because a thief hated me showing them to folks and stole into my shop and literally stole them from me, from us. These here that I'm going to show you will have to suffice, but I know they will. Don't worry, they're pretty good, praise God. And God will talk to that thief later on in Judgment Day, I'm sure. Here goes. Look closely and be blessed as I am and was. I wrote this little piece I'm going to tell you right now in between then. You will never finish your personal stairway to heaven unless you accept Jesus as your personal finishing carpenter. You'll never finish your stairway unless you accept Jesus. And again, I'm going to keep doing this if he discards these videos, and he might, but I'm going to keep doing it until it gets out there to you, because he's not going to win. We are going to win. Here's one of the pictures, and it's difficult to hold these up because my hand goes the opposite way and I'm finger challenged here. That's the gold one. Doesn't it look like, though, that somebody's peeking over? But I don't know, so don't let me plant a seed. That gentleman was my business partner who passed away years ago. You can see the gold cross easily, but down here at the bottom, where is that from? See the silver at the bottom? That's about a 20-footer from where he's standing. Back here they fill up the window. But you notice where he's looking, you see it? Can you see he's looking over here? Where is that? Over here. He's looking up in here. See that? Now I know you can't. But up there, and I don't know why it's up there, but are the letters Jehu. Jehu. You know who Jehu is? I believe he's a king, and he was known for chariot battles for Christ. Why is it up there? I don't even know why the cross is up there. So don't ask me. See the gold cross, and did you see the white one? Now, I'm going to put my finger on the chin, if I can, and follow it up, and see if you don't see a right eye and a left eye of a face. There's the chin. Whoop. There's the chin. There's one eye, and told you this was hard to do. And there's another eye. If you follow it on around, oh, look at it this way. Right eye, left eye. Oh, this is really hard. Pause your picture if you can and see if you don't see a face looking at you. The cross beam is right down, and cross beam is right here. Folks, I didn't make these up. I've just been witnessing on them, doing the best I can with what I got. See the two girls looking at the crosses? But who is this right here? Who is that with his arms up? You decide. Once again, these are just pictures, but Sissy K is still alive. This, to me, is the most unique picture on planet Earth. When did you ever see light make a right angle like it is over here? Straight over and up. And stop. Did you ever see light stop in midair like it's doing up here? But do you see that head right there? That rounded area? When did you ever see light do that? Trying to get it to a little, there's a better one right there. Now can you see the head better? I hope that you can. That's a pretty fantastic picture. And once again, if he messes this video up, I'll do another one. I'm going to do them until God calls me home. I'm going to go ahead and do chapter 15 now, and I've got more show and tell. This chapter 15 is called Not My Depression. Not this time it isn't anyway. I'm kind of known for long titles. I know when my love, Pat, is in a funk and not feeling well. And usually these bouts of hers with anxiety and depression are relatively minor, thank God, and don't last for very long. But one summer while in Indiana, one of them did. Last long, I mean. Come on, honey, I said to her one day when she was feeling especially melancholy. You've got to get up and get out of this room. It's too dark in here. This can't be good for you. You've got to get some sunshine. I know, I said, putting a happy face on my voice. Let's go someplace. Let's take a ride. We both like that, wouldn't we? It'll do us both good, I promise. I don't want to. Just shut the door behind you and leave me alone. I just want to sleep. I can't do that. I can't leave you alone, and I won't. Just like you stayed and helped me through two of my awful nightmarish things in the past, I'm going to stay and help you through this too. So let's get up and let's go get going. I'm not taking no for an answer. I said this to her gently but forcefully, pulling her out of bed at the same time that she had been lying in for several days now, getting up only to go to the bathroom and maybe grab a small bite to eat. Where are you taking me? She weakly asked, but I know she really doesn't even care. I thought we'd take a ride over to Little Nashville. That would be Little Nashville, Indiana, by the way. They have plenty of stores and gift shops we can browse through, and several shops where we can look at their local artist paintings. How does that sound to you? I asked as cheerfully as possible without coming off insincere or phony, but keeping with the theme of the moment. Okay, I guess, she said. She guesses, but I know. I've been there, done that twice. I know it will do us both some good, at least after these last horrendous days we've had together. The trip to Little Nashville is on, thank God. Get that light out of my face there. What? But I don't want to keep moving on, Mr. Policeman. I want to stop right here and park, I hear myself say, just one octave below an all-out argument with the policeman standing there. That is himself becoming quite irritated with me and is frantically waving me to move on against my will. And why are there so many yellow dump trucks on every street in town? I asked him. The town is closed today, mister. Now do what I say and move on way before I give you a ticket. You're holding up traffic. Closed? What do you mean it's closed? It can't be closed. I need this outing to help my wife get out of her funk. Who ever heard of a whole town, touristy town like this, being closed in midsummer like this? But it was. Little Nashville, Indiana was closed, and all of it too. The reason they was because they were blacktopping every street in town on the same day for the upcoming fall season. That was still more than a few months away. That was their main season anyway. Hey, I know, I quickly offered, trying to salvage the moment. Let's drive over to Indiana University for the day. I graduated there many years before with a degree in elementary education, remember? It's only 19 miles or so away. We can have dinner over there and still see a lot of the artwork at the Commons building right there on campus. What do you think of that for a backup plan, honey? We may as well. We've already come this far. I guess, was how she unenthusiastically answered. It must have been a good idea, though, because we had a great time on campus that day, sightseeing and visiting many places we hadn't visited for years. We even stopped to eat at one of her favorite places, and from there, we went out to a nearby countryside to drive by the house we used to rent while I was attending college. Amazingly, this place where we used to live looked exactly the same as it did when we left. I had half expected to see my beautiful German Shepherd come running to me from around the corner of the house. Even the grass needed cutting, just like it did when we lived there. For a very, very brief visit, we didn't even get out of the car. We started for home, which was over 100 miles away. When we got most of the way back to our starting point, Little Nashville that is, I pulled off into the state park and parked the car at an overlooking just one of many of Indiana's beautiful vistas. We exited the car and I placed a blanket on the grass, and then we rested. I got up and popped in one of the tapes I had in the glove compartment, a tape some of my friends from Tennessee wrote and produced. I sang along with them for a while and everything was going well, or at least better, I should say, for Pat, who was talking more than she had in several weeks. This was a good sign. It was such a beautiful, pleasant Indiana day. Sorry about the lighting. I'm not a professional. Suddenly, to the southwest, coming over the rise of a low hill, I spotted a huge black roiling cloud heading straight for us, rolling and folding in on itself, growing darker and darker by the moment until it was pitch black, impossible to get any darker than it was. "We better get out of here," I quickly offered, keeping an eye on the angry-looking cloud. "Honey," was all Pat said calmly, while reaching up and tapping lightly on the car door. The first drop of rain, all we do is got to get inside. Gosh, I never thought of that. Well, she did. At the first drop of rain, all we got to do is get in the car, right? What she was really saying here, I believe, was that she was enjoying the day a great deal more, even more than I was, if that was possible, and didn't want it to end. At least that's the way I took it anyway. A very friendly, cool breeze enveloped us. A soft, caressing breeze was rushing way out ahead of it, preceding the menacing rain cloud's arrival. And don't you know, that gentle breeze lulled us to sleep. The both of us, it did. How comfortable and soothing this was for us. We desperately needed it. I don't know how long we slept, but it was for quite a while. We woke up at the same time and were both smiling at one another as we got into the car, this time really heading for home. "I need to stop for a break, honey," I said, pulling into a little nondescript convenience store on the outskirts of Columbus, Indiana, about 5 that afternoon. "I'm getting a soft drink. Want one?" "You don't? Okay, suit yourself. I'll be right back." There was a huge wide mirror directly in front of me when I went into the restroom. A paper towel holder was on the wall on the right side, and it was much too close to the mirror. So close, in fact, that the person or persons changing the towels couldn't see where to put the key in to unlock it. I saw, too, that someone had ingeniously and very creatively as well, I thought, had drawn a three-legged character on the far end of the towel holder, away from the door, using the keyhole as the eye of this adorable-looking character. So in other words, they'd reach around and look into the mirror and stick the key into the eye of the character and turn it and open the towel holder, whichever way it turned. Now that's a neat idea, I thought. Very creative. The person changing the towels only had to look at the reflection in the mirror now and put the key into the eye. Very clever indeed. I kept looking at the drawing as I stood there washing my hands, and suddenly it was giving me an interesting thought of my own, it was. The reason I say this is because over the years I've come up with probably 100 or more cartoons of my own. Maybe even more than that. Some people say my cartooning is, some of them say it's like Gary Larson, which is a great compliment. He was the best, Gary Larson. The Far Side guy? Well, that's a great compliment. But as I said, I've never counted them yet. And I've been wanting to come up with some sort of unique idea on how to market them. But as yet, I haven't been able to come up with anything suitable worth trying. Now I'm thinking, as I look at the end of this towel holder in a different light, that this character drawn here just may be the way to go. I could, when the time was right to do so, have this special little cutesy looking character tell my cartoons for me through a thought bubble hanging above his or her darling little head. I'll make refrigerator magnets out of them. Not a bad thought. Not a bad thought at all. I paid for my drink, Diet Pepsi. I always have a Diet Pepsi when I'm on a trip. Just habit. And went out to the car, all excited about my new fantastic idea I just thought of back there in the restroom. Pat asked me when I slid in behind the wheel, "Why are you smiling so big like that for?" "I just had a wonderful thought in there." Back there in the restroom, I did. "I just had a wonderful thought." "Oh, what was that?" "The thought, I mean," she asked as I pulled out onto the highway heading for home. "I had this funny thought back there," I said, still smiling. "And what funny thought would that be?" she asked, beginning to lose her grin. I had an interesting thought just then. "Will you just knock off all that thought stuff right now, Buster? I'm tired of hearing about it. Are you going to tell me what your thought was back there or not?" Apparently, she had finally had enough of my thought ideas. I do believe it. For the next 70 miles or so, I explained or lectured, as Pat would tell you I often do, if she were telling you this story. I explained to her about my thought idea all the way home until we arrived in our driveway back in Greendale, right there a portion of Lawrenceburg, where she finally informs me, and I'm quoting here, "Stop with your thoughts already. I don't want to hear another thought come out of your head today." Then she exited the car and went inside, but at least now she was smiling as she walked away. The day trip out today was a rip-roaring success, I knew for certain now, and in many ways. The following day, it was my weekly golf outing. My weekly golf outing day. Today, December 11th, 2014, on the course I most usually play, I'm considered to be what's called a B player. But back when this next event in the story took place, I was considered by most groups I played golf with to be an A player. In other words, I've been demoted, but only just a little. Being an A player meant that you were the leader of your team for the next 9 holes of golf. The A player calls the shots that need to be taken by all the members of that particular team as we go around the course from hole to hole. It's always been a small honor amongst all golfing competitors here at our club to be the leader, to be the A guy. As I was saying, on this particular day, the next day after our trip to Brown County in Little Nashville, I was selected to be an A player of our scramble foursome. Our team had just completed playing the first 3 holes and were on the tee box to the number 4 hole, which was a very easy par 4 hole. And straight ahead, no dog legs left or right, just right down the middle. I'd driven this hole many times before in the past from the senior tees. There's nothing but one solitary telephone pole anywhere around on this particular hole to impede anyone's shot to the green. Just that one telephone pole. The majority of us can drive it, no problem. In a scramble, which this was, we generally hit our drives in the order of our personal skills and capabilities, meaning the weakest driver in the group would hit first, and then so on and so forth, until everyone hits their shots. For those of you who don't know the game we're playing here, out here under the beautiful warm Indiana sun, we, our team of 4 players, only need one good shot from one of us each time we hit the ball. Then we go to that ball, and wherever it lies, we hit it from there until we get it in the hole. On hole number 4 that day, the first man, our weakest hitter, walks up into the tee box. He addresses his ball and hits away. But instead of hitting it straight down the middle, like he's supposed to do, like we all wanted him to do, he hits it off the toe of his club, way over here to the right, into a large field of tall weeds, and out of bounds. That's all right, though. None of us expected much more of that. He was a beginner to the sport, so we weren't much too disappointed with that. At least he's out there playing. The next guy goes up into the tee box. This guy just so happens to be riding in the same cart with the first guy. Slowly he approaches his ball and swings his club several times to loosen up. And then he too commenced to do exactly the same thing, and exactly with the same results as his riding partner. His ball lands, wouldn't you know, only about 15 feet away from the first one. We call that cart golf, if you want to know. Geez, you guys, I say to both of them, pointing to the green way off to their left. We're going that way, not out into an empty field. The next man to hit is a very decent and capable and smooth B player. Actually, to tell you the truth, I think he's a much better golfer than I am, though he always denies it in the clubhouse and to try to get himself a better, higher caliber player, A player to play with, which gives himself a better shot at winning. I know for a fact he's going to hit the ball in the right direction. Uh-oh, got my facts all wrong, because he didn't. Mr. B player, and I'll call him that from now on for the rest of our lives whenever I see him. He hits his ball in the very same tall, deep-weeded, empty lot. Exactly as the other two guys did before him. So strange. Unbelievable, actually, is what it was. But it's true. All three of them went into the same field. I always watch where the other members of my team hit their shots, and I saw exactly where Mr. B player's ball landed. I marked it next to an extremely tall horseweed and the back tire of a pickup truck in the driveway of a new house being built on the edge of the golf course. Now it's my turn to get up there in the tee box and drive the ball. And toward the green, I hope. I certainly hope. Dear Lord, I said, sending up a quick under my breath prayer to God, please let me hit a straight drive right down the center of this fairway right now, and not anywhere near that magnetized golf ball field the others here on my team have hit their shots into. Please, I want to go that way. And I did. I did just that. I hit a shot straight down the middle of the fairway, coming up just short of the green, and directly in front for an easy chip shot. Here, birdie, birdie, is what I'm thinking now. Seriously, though, it could have been real bad for us as a team if I had done anything else in this situation and followed suit with my teammates and hit into that field right alongside of them. It's extremely hard to get back into the match after scoring a stupid bogey. Now that we know we've got a decent shot to head for, we're all going over to that field together to try to find, if we can. These guys lost golf balls in the tall weeds before going on with play. The first two guys were looking correctly. I knew they were, in the general area of their errant shots. Good for them. But Mr. B player, the guy riding in the cart with me, is totally off target trying to locate his. Your ball is way over to the left, Mr. B player, I hollered, remaining in the cart. I didn't want to get chigger bites walking through the tall grass, looking for a ball I didn't lose in the first place. I guess that was selfish of me, wasn't it? Guess so. I'm not perfect as I think I am after all, I guess. No, not that way. To your left a little more, I instructed. In line with the back tire of that white pickup truck and that real tall horseweed directly in front of you. Oh, never mind. I'll get it myself, I said. I'll go get it myself. Getting out of the cart and heading for the chiggers and scratches and things I was trying to avoid. As I walk through the tall weeds, heading toward the place I know where his ball is, I feel something round under the heel of my right shoe. It's another lost golf ball, I could tell. I stopped walking, bent down a little and picked it up, all the while keeping my line on the back tire of that truck in the driveway and that one particular tall horseweed. I have the golf ball I stepped on safely secured in my hand now, and continued my trek through the scruffy, prickly weeds right up to the place where I saw Mr. B's errant shot come to rest. And it was there too, right where I knew it would be. Now I have Mr. B's golf ball in my right hand, and I have the other ball that I found that I stepped on in my left. Is it a Callaway maybe? A Dunlap? Or could it be still my heart? Could it be a Titleist? You know, a Pro V1 or something like that? Could it be one of those? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. What is it? I open my hand to have a look, And when I did, I almost fell over backwards, right there in the weeds I was trying to avoid. On the ball, and by stepping on it, I promise you, was drawn the same exact three-legged character I saw in the paper towel holder just the day before in Columbus, Indiana, and well over 70 miles away, and in less than 18 hours before. The same exact character. How could this be? Now I'm going to show you the ball, and it's really faint and discolored after all these years because I've shown it 1,000 times. But I'm going to hold it up and I'm going to show you this ball. And I made some dots recently, if I can find the dots. There are the dots. Yeah, this is really hard. See that yellow part? It's upside down. See that yellow part there? There's actually it's upside down. I'm never going to get this part. Anyway, all that yellow that you see there, get over here. I am so uncoordinated when it comes to this. There's the character right, there's his head up there. And get over here. Well, you see all that yellow? And it's faded out with me doing just that over the years. Well, that's the character. I'm going to pause here one second.